All right, so are you ready for this?
I think so. Hit me.
Okay, well, today we're going to dive into something pretty wild. We're talking politics, A&D, cryptocurrency.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you're the type who's constantly refreshing the crypto charts, or maybe you're still trying to wrap your head around the election results, well, this deep dive is for you.
Sounds like it.
We're looking at this BNN Bloomberg article, and honestly, it asks a pretty crazy question.
Hmm.
They're basically saying, is this whole Bitcoin surge, it just blew past $80,000, is that a direct result of Trump winning the election?
Wow, that's a bold statement.
I know, right? So let's try to break this down together and hopefully figure out what's actually going on. What do you think?
Yeah, let's get into it. It's
Yeah.
pretty fascinating how these two worlds, politics and crypto, they keep bumping into each other.
It's true. Okay, so just to set the scene a little bit, Bitcoin, the OG cryptocurrency, it just hit a new all-time high, like I said, over $84,000.
I saw that. Crazy.
And get this happened right after Trump's win. What are the chances?
The timing is definitely interesting.
I know. I mean, this is huge GE for the crypto world, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, it shows that people are feeling pretty confident about Bitcoin. Maybe, this whole political shakeup has changed how some people see crypto.
That's a good point. And you can't forget that Trump, during his whole campaign, he made crypto a big deal. Like, he was talking about putting the U.S. at the top of the crypto world.
Oh, yeah, he was all over that.
And remember, he even talked about making, a strategic Bitcoin reserve for the country.
Yeah, he wasn't shy about it.
I mean, that's pretty different from what we've seen from a lot of other politicians, right?
For sure. It's like night and day compared to some of those more cautious, even skeptical views we've heard from others. And I think all of this pro-crypto talk from Trump, it's definitely adding to all the speculation about, what's going to happen in the market.
Totally. Okay, so let's bring in a little expert opinion here.
Mhm.
So BNN Bloomberg, they interviewed this guy, John Zechner. He's the chairman and founder of J. Zechner Associates, and he had some pretty interesting things to say. So he seems to think that this whole Bitcoin rally is directly connected to, you guessed it, Trump's super pro-crypto stance.
Yeah.
And, those campaign promises we were just talking about. What do you think about that?
Well, I think what Zechner's saying is super important for anyone who's, into crypto. Because
Okay.
it shows how much power politicians actually have to affect your investments.
It's true.
He's basically saying that because Trump won, people are way more confident about crypto, and that's why Bitcoin is going up.
Makes sense.
Mm.
And he doesn't just stop there, okay? Zechner also talks about how there might be less regulation under Trump, with the new administration and all that.
Uh-huh.
He thinks Trump will probably loosen up some of the rules around crypto.
So for those listening who might not be super familiar with all the ins and outs of regulation, what that basically means is fewer restrictions, less red tape for crypto businesses.
Well, that's a good way to put it.
Which could then lead to more investors and companies getting involved, which would increase demand, and then potentially prices go up even more. It's like a domino effect.
Wow, so one thing leads to another. But, okay, we can't forget about, the other big player in all of this, the SEC, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. They haven't always been the biggest supporters of crypto, have they?
Yeah, the SEC is key here. They're basically the referees for all things financial, right? They make sure everyone's playing by the rules and, that investors are protected, how they feel about regulating cryptocurrencies. Well, it has a huge GD impact on how investors feel and how the whole market behaves.
I like that, the referee analogy. And Zechner actually mentions that there are rumors going around that Trump might actually remove the current SEC chair, Gary Gensler. Can you imagine if that actually happened?
That would be wild.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That would be like a huge signal that things are changing for crypto. Like they're rolling out the red carpet, welcome. What do you think that would mean for, the average person who invests in crypto?
Well, getting rid of Gensler, that would suggest that the whole regulatory philosophy is shifting, which could be massive for the entire crypto world. I mean, it could lead to even more people wanting to invest in crypto, and that could push prices up even higher because it would be easier to get involved.
It's kind of exciting to think about. But okay, before we get too carried away with all the Bitcoin hype, there's a little twist. So even though our expert, Mr. Zechner, he sees that the market's going crazy right now, he's not exactly celebrating.
Oh, interesting.
He's actually still pretty skeptical.
Yeah.
He calls himself a fundamental analyst, which,
Uh-huh.
can you explain what that means for those of us who are, still learning the ropes?
Sure. So someone like Zechner, a fundamental analyst, they're all about the underlying value of something, like an asset. They don't just focus on the price going up and down in the short term.
God.
And he's worried that Bitcoin might be what's called a bubble asset, meaning the price is way higher than it should be based on what it's actually worth.
Like people are just buying it because they think it'll keep going up.
Exactly. And that, as he's pointing out, can be a classic sign that, a bubble is about to burst.
Oh, I see. So we need to be careful.
It's something to keep in mind for sure. What Zechner's saying about a possible bubble, it's important. It's like a reminder that a lot of this market craziness can be driven by hype and speculation, which can make prices go way up even if the asset isn't actually worth that much.
Yeah, it makes sense. And to add to his skepticism, Zechner isn't convinced that we'll see like big governments or institutions really getting behind Bitcoin or, blockchain technology anytime soon. What do you think about that?
Well, if you don't have that support from big institutions, it makes it much harder for crypto to be used by everyone. It kind of makes you wonder if cryptocurrencies will ever be like a normal part of our financial system if the big players aren't on board.
Yeah, it's like they need that stamp of approval. So, okay, it seems like we have this tug of war going on. On one side, we have all the excitement around Trump being pro-crypto, the chance of fewer regulations, and Bitcoin breaking records left and right. I mean, it's pretty tempting, right?
It is.
But then on the other side, you have this experienced analyst saying, hey, wait a minute, this could be a bubble. And he's wondering if Bitcoin can really last without support from the big guys.
Yeah.
It's this back and forth that makes it all so interesting.
Yeah, and it highlights how complicated and uncertain the world of crypto really is. I mean, there's so much potential, but there's also a lot of risk and skepticism. And it's that mix that makes it so fascinating to follow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really shows you just how complicated crypto is, and how much we still don't know. Like, it could be huge, but there are definitely risks.
It's true. It's like a roller coaster ride, and we're all just trying to figure out where the next drop is going to be.
Exactly, but that's also part of the excitement, right?
Yeah, I guess so. It definitely keeps things interesting. But okay, so we've heard what our expert, Mr. Zechner, has to say, and it's definitely a lot to think about. But let's shift gears a bit here. I want to hear from you, like what really stood out to you from all of this? Was it the whole deregulation thing? Or maybe you're more worried about this potential bubble? Or maybe it's just how much politics can actually affect the market. What are you thinking?
Well, I think it depends on what you're looking for as an investor. Like if you're really bullish on crypto, you see it going to the moon, then all this talk about a pro-crypto government and less regulation, that's probably pretty exciting.
Yeah, like a big green light to buy.
Right. But if you're a little more cautious, maybe Lechner's warnings about a bubble are making you think twice.
Totally. It's smart to be careful.
Definitely. And honestly, it's always a good idea to be a little cautious with anything that seems super hyped up, and never invest more than you can afford to lose, especially with crypto. It can change so quickly.
So where does all of this leave us? We've got these big promises from politicians, but then there's all this uncertainty about regulations and the market is going crazy. It seems like a recipe for both good and bad things, right?
Absolutely. And that's exactly why it's so important to do your research and stay informed. Don't just jump on the bandwagon because everyone else is.
Yeah, like don't just follow the headlines.
Right. Take some time to actually learn about cryptocurrencies, how they work, and what can affect their value.
Knowledge is power, right? Especially with something as unpredictable as crypto. And remember, there's a ton of information out there to help you navigate this crazy world. You can read articles, check out online forums, and even listen to deep dives like this one.
Exactly. The more you know, the better decisions you'll make, and you'll be able to invest in a way that, matches your goals and how much risk you're okay with.
Okay, let's just take a second to recap what we've talked about today.
Yeah.
So we started with this interesting connection between Trump winning the election and Bitcoin hitting a new record, over $80,000.
Right. And we heard from our expert who thinks this big price jump is because of Trump's, pro-crypto views and the possibility of fewer rules and regulations.
But we also talked about how some people are worried that this might be a bubble and that it's always smart to be a little bit skeptical. At the end of the day, it's your money, so you need to be okay with the level of risk you're taking.
It's a complicated and constantly changing world, so staying informed, doing your research, and making decisions that work for you, that's what's important.
All right, so before we wrap things up, I want to leave you with one final thought to think about. So with all this going on, politics, regulations, and the market going crazy, what do you think the future holds for Bitcoin and, the whole cryptocurrency world?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? It's impossible to know for sure what's going to happen, especially with something like crypto. It changes so fast.
That's true.
But I think the best thing we can do is just stay informed, Think critically about everything and be ready for whatever happens.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
It feels like we're in uncharted territory with all of this. And maybe this crazy ride is just getting started. What a time to be into crypto.
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting time.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new and that you're ready to tackle the crypto world head on.
Absolutely.
Until next time.